Just a lot of bars. She's gonna go like she's
I struggle to have 7 o'clock. I don't know if you want to wait for this and just wait. Just go ahead and get started. Welcome to the special meeting this Tuesday evening, February 13, 2024. I now call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll. We have the two Vice Chair Walnick. Vice Chair Walnick? Here. Commissioner Trapp? Here. Commissioner Witcher? Here. Youth Commissioner Lee? Youth Commissioner Joniker is not in attendance yet, and Chair Fields and Commissioner Tiapi are both excused with a work commitment. Thank you. Thank you. We are holding meetings in hybrid mode. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the bottom of each published agenda. In person at the meeting, complete a request to speak form and submit to the recording secretary. Join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link at the top of the agenda. Use the raise your hand button to be called on at the appropriate time. Please unmute yourself only when called upon. Phone-in participation can be done by calling 408-638-0968 with the conference ID 832-1574-7498, passcode 354369. If you're on the phone, please press *9 to raise your hand to be called on and *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. All right, moving on to our first item on the consent calendar, approval of the regular meeting minutes of January 3rd, 2024. Does anyone have any edits or changes to make? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
In a second? Thank you. Please roll call, please take the vote.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Witcher?
Aye.
Commissioner Trapp?
Aye.
Vice Chair Wolnick?
Aye.
Motion has passed. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on this agenda may address the commission at this time. State law prevents us from taking any action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, an opportunity for additional public comment may be provided later in the agenda. If you have any public comment on items not on this agenda, please raise your hand. I don't think we have anyone in the room, so.
We do not have anybody at Zoom, on Zoom at this time, no.
Oh, okay. Then I will close public comment. Moving right along. Item 2, recreation management software mobile application development feedback. I'm assuming we have a staff presentation, so please take it away.
We do, and that will actually be myself and Tracy who's standing there.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. Good evening, commissioners. We are going to be presenting today on something that is in development currently. We have been using a software called VSI, which stands for Vermont Systems Incorporated, RecTrack and WebTrack for our registration for recreation programs or facility reservations and other things like that that require transactions. Last year, 2023, in November, Tracy and I attended a symposium, a training symposium for VSI, where they usually show a lot of new developments that they have, some really exciting, some are just like regular trainings for the system. But one that came up was development of a mobile application that they're offering for users of RecTrack and WebTrack. As you guys can see, this is an example. They actually used the app during the symposium, so it was cool for Tracy and I to be able to be in there and see how it works and, you know, click on all the buttons and stuff. And while we're going through this presentation, some options that we want you guys to kind of have in your mind, we're going to be reviewing our WebTrack webpage. And currently, we have 9 options on the front page of that webpage. We're going to ask whether we should keep those menu options the way we have them now, whether we should add any additional categories, change any categories. If so, we would ask you guys which. And then if there is an opportunity to make the options on the website and on the application less specific from what we have them right there. So go more generic and do like a button for activity registration, one for facility reservation, and so on. One thing that came up is that there are some limitations the more specific that we get, because everything is coded based on what we have in the system. And so it's based on the categories that we have already in RecTrack. So when we have mixed level activities that fall into 2 categories, it's kind of hard to combine them into one button, okay? So why did we choose to embark on having an app? First of all, the WebTrack app, the way it's being developed by the provider, is a white labeled app. So they already have something in place, and all we have to do is provide our branding. So we're going to create the app, we're going to build it ourselves, but it's not like we have to pay a developer to do it for us, which is really great. It's already integrated into the system that we have. It's fully customizable and flexible. Right now, it's considered the highest level of functionality in the market. If any of you have used MyFit app, it's the same developers as that app that is partnering with VSI. It seamlessly integrates with WebTrack, which is an online registration site for our patrons. And then we have patron engagement on the go, which is one of the things that we really wanted to incorporate, especially with the world changing the way it is. People aren't really on laptops or computers anymore. They tend to be more on their phones. And we're hoping that this is going to fix an equity issue and allow us to provide access to registration on the go for people that don't have access to laptops or computers at home. So as I mentioned before, we have the ability with the app to make it as specific or as broad as we would like. Right here, we show an example on their app where they have the homepage, a button that's labeled campsite and boat rentals. If somebody clicks on that, they go to a sub-navigation page that then gives people the option to go rental sites or boat rentals. From there, somebody can click on it, and if you click on boat rentals, it'll pull up another sub-navigation page and give you all the options for the different boat rentals that somebody might offer. Once somebody clicks on this option, then it takes you to our actual website. With single sign-on, folks are already going to be logged in and they're able to complete the transaction on there. One thing to consider with these sub-navigation pages is if we have too many clicks and somebody clicks on the wrong thing, then they have to click back to get back to the home page and make another selection. But if we make it too broad, then it's kind of going to be the same setup as what we have on our website where they click and then they have to filter themselves. So those are the two things to consider with that. So this is what our WebTrack page, sorry, currently looks like. As you can see, we broke it down into the different categories. As I mentioned, there's 9 right now. We have youth programs, facility reservations, which includes our picnics and our courts, preschool programs, adult programs, senior programs, dance and fitness, memberships, special events, and aquatics. For special events, that button redirects you back to our city website so that people can see the different events that we have coming up. We don't typically sell tickets for most of our events, so we don't have to go into WebTrack for that. And for aquatics, that's a seasonal program that we can easily swap out for something else. Tracy, did you want to touch on the dance and fitness and some of the issues you've seen with that?
Yeah, so some of the things that we are kind of coming across is that it's very specialized. So as a consumer, if I'm looking for, oh, well, I'm an adult program and I'm gonna type in Zumba, well, it's not gonna come up. So I might be like, oh, they don't have Zumba, so I'm gonna go somewhere else. Or if I go into dance and fitness and maybe I'm looking for something that's a little bit more specialized for seniors. So I feel like we are sometimes kind of running into kind of pigeonholing ourselves. Because as on the flip side, as you know, the staff were really like, when I go in there and I want to make sure something is showing up correctly and it's you know, all the wording and the keywords and everything, I'll usually just I go straight to keyword search from the top. I don't even click on, you know, I don't click on these. But a lot of times we're just talking to people on the phone. They're like, okay, well, I am an adult and so I clicked adult programs, but I can't find the Kuxul one because, oh, well, the Kuxul one, sometimes we have ones that are for 13 plus, right? So we have to put them in youth or adult. I can't have them in youth or adult. So then we also have contractors who are like, I can't find my classes. I'm like, they're in there. It's just a specific ways, you know, in which our community has to kind of try and sort it out.
Okay, and so what happens in the system when somebody clicks on one of those buttons, as I mentioned, it goes into the search results. And if you could see the little red box, those are the categories that we have available. And when you click on the box, it'll automatically filter for what's selected in that box. Right now, I had selected youth programs and it includes camps, childcare, and youth programs. But intuitively, unless you're familiar with our categories, you wouldn't know that as a user. And so that's kind of what we want your guys' feedback on is, you know, because we're used to the categories, we're used to the way that our programs are set up, but more intuitively how somebody from the outside would use the system. And then now I'll come back to this page. We'll actually go on the website and I'll click around so you guys can kind of see what happens. But I do want to jump over to the design mockups of the application. These are just that, mockups. We still have to see whether this design categories and buttons and stuff is available in the actual app. But these options have a picture in the background, something that is related to our city, this is, I think, Sugarloaf Park.
Sugarloaf, Laurelwood, Sugarloaf area.
Yeah. And one of the things that we are considering whether the homepage should have everything available and clickable on the first page, or whether it's okay that people have to actually scroll through to the different options like it's shown on this side right here. And then the other option is very similar, but it has a little bit more white space. That's something that we noticed on a lot of apps, like if you go on Amazon or any other app really that you pull up, most of them tend to have a white background and the buttons are the branding colors or the images that they use. And then we will go to our website now. Okay. So this is the landing page for our registration site. As I mentioned, we do have the different buttons. If you hover over there, it kind of tells you a little bit about what you might find there. When you go to some of these other options, like preschool, a lot of the enrollment for this program has to be done in person or with a staff member because it has some things that have to be verified before enrollment. And so if you click on this button, it's not so intuitive, but it will actually redirect you to our city website where you can find information on our preschool programs. Where if you click on this button right here, it'll actually take you to the search results for that category. As you can see, this redirects you back to the site with that information that somebody might need. And same with some of these other buttons. The option that Tracy was referring to, which is more of a generic search, if you come up here, there are also options that kind of pull down depending on what you want to do in the system. That's going to be activity registrations. You could search by just a general search, filtering down depending on what you need. Or if you know, or if you look at the guide, there's a number on there and you could enroll directly with that number if you're familiar. What we've realized is that most folks don't use it that way. They don't actually know that code, the 6-digit code. And so they'll just do a search for whatever they need. And then we get a little bit more filter down for the facilities. So you have picnic areas, jumper permits. And again, once you click on that, it's coded on the back end to just filter the search results based on that selection. And I can click on that, you could look at it. And so now the only option you'll see on here as opposed to the courts and everything on there will just be the picnic sites. Same thing with aquatics. I'll just show you a couple different examples. But then when you go to special events, it'll redirect you again to our city website where our special event information lives. I'm going to go back to the slide deck. And pull up. So that's the design mockups, the different options that we have. And then the questions that, this is going to probably be the bulk of it, what we want to focus on, because then we could work on the design elements a little bit later. But we really want to hear from you guys, what you think about the current categories, what you guys think would be more intuitive or helpful for people from the public, for members of the public, and any other recommendations you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna open it up first for questions. So why don't we just start at this end and go this way? So we
Sure.
know what you- How about?
Great presentation, very easy to follow and a lot of good information. Keyword search for me is super important. That's how I usually end up accessing most program apps like this.
Okay.
So with the mobile app, can there be a very prominent and fairly flexible keyword search?
I don't think there is at this moment. We did ask, And the reason for that is it has to redirect you to the site. So we can have a button that redirects you to like activity search. And then from there, we have a keyword option.
But I know you mean when you pull up an
Yeah.
app, like I do that too, because I'm like, I don't wanna look. You sometimes don't look through everything, you're like, well, I know exactly what I want, and I wanna put it in there. So I think they're bringing that, Vermont Systems is bringing that to the developer to
Mhm.
kind of. Right now, there's a lot of people who are in kind of the same stages we are, right? Like this is just kind of announced in November, so we're all of us are kind of in that, ramp up stage. So the more things that we are coming across while we are developing this, and we're bringing it, to their attention, and that's definitely one of the, one of the items on there.
Yeah, Giovanna, I think you gave perfect example, which is someone looks for a Zumba class. Zumba is incredibly popular. And if someone wants Zumba, they want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna say, okay, where's my search? Zumba.
Yeah.
So I think that would be really effective. I'm glad that you're following up with Vermont Systems on that. And I hope that that's a feature that can come to fruition. Quick design point. You had City News on all of these selections for all of the design examples.
Yeah.
I don't think we need City News there.
Okay.
My preference, and this is just personal preference, is to have things uncluttered. And the fewer options, but key options available are good. So City News, if I want that, I'm gonna go to the city's homepage. With regard to consistency, so consistency is just incredibly important. I think the decision or the choice that you've made to say redirect to preschool, the city preschool programs, it's okay, because it looks to me like when you redirect to there, what you're getting is what the user is looking for, which is here's the list of preschool programs. So they've made one click, they've gone to here's the list of preschool programs. Okay, it's not in the Parks and Recs subdirectory, it's not in the Parks and Recs tree, but they found what they were looking for. So if it works that way, then I think that's fine. Simplicity.
We're at questions, so we'll do comments.
Sorry.
That's okay.
We all
forget, we all
forget. I shall stop the blending I have. And I only have one comment left, so I can be very quick on comments.
You might have more about it. Sure.
So on that question, so there isn't any additional cost for this, for you to do the mobile side of it. You're just now implementing the design of it. Is that correct?
So there is an additional cost. It's kind of like a license as part of the program. It's not what the cost would be if we actually went out and hired a developer. So it's a very minimal cost compared to what the program actually is. I would say,
I think, so one of the things that was nice when we went to
Yeah.
the symposium, they were really talking about, just us both being there, we're like, wait a minute, we need to go back and look what our license, or what our agreement with VSI has on it, because we were kind of able, Gio was able to kind of go in there and be like, okay, well, actually, you know what, we've had this system for about 8 years. We no longer need this, we no longer need this, we're able to kind of, shift some stuff out to be able to also kind of help absorb, bringing the app on, and it was like $4,000 to $5,000. Am I speaking?
it's close to
Yeah.
that for the first year.
Mhm. And then, cause it's a lot of the time we meet with the VSI team, like about every other week, cause we're the ones, yes, we're in it's called like the cockpit of the designing it and the functionality. But when we're coming across the things about, a search function, or can we, always have the bottom be the same so that people can always get back, so we're meeting with them constantly. So I think that's part of it's the ramp up.
Yeah, so the first year is about, I think, between $3,500 to $4,000. And then every year it's part of the license after that. And I think it's about $2,000 a year. So very minimal compared to what other app developers would charge to build this.
And they have been amenable to your changes, because as you get into it and want to customize it more, you feel like they've been a good partner in helping you kind of get to what you need.
Yeah,
Okay, and so you feel you'll be able to get it once you get your initial design, that you'll have a good partner to continue to make changes in what you need and maybe collapse things that you were saying or build things up, so you feel confident with that.
yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's really great about this provider is that they have help available at all times for any of the services that they offer, not just for the app, but if we want to do something new with our activity coding or anything on the back end, they're always there. They have like it's like a chat that you can put in a ticket to have your problems looked at by somebody who's a specialist and help you with it, so.
And within your design sessions, were there like buttons of different call to actions, or even the way that you could potentially do some tagging or some labeling of some of your boxes that you have there with those options?
Yep, that's completely customizable. So we choose what goes in those. We can have it go, like I said, to the sub-navigation pages, or we can redirect to our website. We can redirect to an external link, whatever we want to do with those buttons, we can customize them.
Last question. And what are you doing as far as your design sessions? Like, how are you guys going about the way that you design this?
So we are working with our communications and public relations analyst. She's been doing research. Her name is Jacqueline. She's been doing research on kind of what the best practices are for apps. And then this is going to be a big one for us, getting your guys' feedback on kind of what's the most intuitive for the users currently on the app, on the website. We're also going to bring it to the senior commission because we expect that they're going to be using it as well and get their feedback from them.
Okay, because you made a little bit of a comment to it earlier, and I'll leave this for comments, but the diversification of how people use things are completely different, and you only have a 3-person representative of, you're slightly diverse, but we just hope that you will have a bigger pool of your QA that you're gonna do.
Thank you. Youth Commissioner Lee.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Question I think will also relate to the issue of the search function.
Okay.
So when keyword is searched, will the programs be considered like most popular that so like oldest date to like newest date is your search?
We do currently have that on the website. Let me take a look. And so what we actually did not that long ago when we changed the user interface for the website is we made it as simple as possible. We really noticed that folks weren't using some of those filters like, available today or happening this month or anything like that. And so we kept it just to keyword, the activity number, categories. Location is a big one because depending on where you live, you might want to partake in different programs. But we do on our website have a calendar, and so you can kind of see, I'll do a search for like Zumba. So it'll bring up the calendar and anything that's on there. I don't know. There's any Zumba, is there? Oh, there's Zumba. Right now, yeah. There's a lot of Zumba.
It's always like my go-to example.
Yeah.
Because it's popular.
I don't know if it's the sharing that's not allowing the search to go through, but.
It's being a little glitchy.
By the way, these keywords are also keywords that our staff puts in when they're doing the entry for, for the program. So if you do a search for Zumba, let me take a look if it'll pull it up on the calendar. Down here. So we'll look into the calendar options. I know there is a way to filter it in that regard on the website. And like I said, since it's gonna be, the app is gonna redirect you to the website, I'm sure there's a way for us to put it that way.
That's it? Any other questions? I wanted to understand the answer to Commissioner Witcher's search question. You mentioned that it could go back to the website, so we could put like a search button that then just goes to the search on the website?
Yeah.
Okay. And then is this gonna be just available in English?
It is only available in English at this time.
Is that
Um,
true for our website too?
You know, our, so if you look up on the top of, like, depends where you're looking, there's the, Google Translate is on for WebTrack. So I think once we're actually able to start using this and see, even before we go, say, you know, quote unquote, live to the public, we can see kind of what it does when yes, I'm still gonna have to search on the app in English. Once I get to WebTrack, will that toggle for Google Translate be there? But we have also brought that to the developer's attention as well.
Yeah, the app, the developers of the app have been offering it in other countries. And so I think there is the option to do it in a different language. I just don't know if they have the functionality to translate it like back and forth. And so one of the things that we have considered is using the labels on the app in English and then maybe putting them in Spanish a little bit smaller so people could still read it and get to it. We just are gonna have to look at the functionality of that and whether things fit on a phone and it's easy to read that way.
And then how does the payment work with the app? Is there like you can fill it in like any other mobile app,
So,
Apple Pay,
yeah,
Google
it,
Pay, all that?
So since it works seamlessly with WebTrack, any way that you can do, unfortunately, we can't do Apple Pay and all that great stuff on WebTrack. So once it filters down to whatever your, say, you know, Zumba, okay, great, I hit on the first page, if I go, depending on how we kind of decipher it, if it just goes activities, and then, okay, I go to adult activities, and then I'm gonna get to the pay, it will take me to WebTrack, and then I'll put in, oh, here's my class, add to cart, and then it's still the same, it's all the same payment module that I would see whether I'm, you know, on a computer or on the phone. It works like seamlessly with WebTrack.
Cause I'm envisioning like, I don't like to save my credit card anywhere, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I'm going through the app and then all of a sudden I'm typing a credit card number on my phone. It
Mhm.
seems pretty clunky.
Mhm.
So that's how it would work?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't, okay.
Yeah.
And that's been something that has always been the case, even on our website, where they don't save credit card information on there. And as Tracy mentioned, the app won't be taking any of the payments. You'll actually be redirected kind of to a sub-navigation within the app that takes you to this web page. And if you have information in there, you can go ahead and, you know, log in, but you would have to enter your credit card information each time.
Have you done any? It feels like such a loaded word to use outreach, but I'm hearing that there might be some people that aren't accessing or signing up for our activities because they don't have access to a laptop. I mean, do we have data on that? Do we know that is actually happening?
So we don't have hard data, but what we do have is when summer registration happens, which is one of our biggest seasons, we have a lot of folks who choose to go in person to the centers and register. And that's usually because either they can't access the internet at home or at work, or they don't know how to use a computer. You know, they don't know how to use the internet or don't have access to it. And so it's not really hard data, but it is something that we see year to year. No matter how much outreach we do on that day of summer camp registration, that first day, King Center is really impacted with people wanting to do registrations in person.
Yeah, I guess I'm just questioning whether the app's gonna solve that. I mean, cause that may be a problem with language, that may be a problem, other problems, right? So I'm not really sure how to get an answer to that question. It feels like we should have some feedback that it's gonna make it easier for people that are using our system before, because it sounds like most of the money is upfront in designing the app. So I don't wanna like have us do a pilot program, because we've already done all that money and put it out there before knowing that like this is actually gonna solve that problem. Because I think we're still gonna get a lot of in-person.
And I think our intent really is to try and educate people about its availability and user friendliness at registration times. That's kind of our opportunity to do the outreach. Another option moving forward is to install kiosks that are not on computers, but more on iPads and things of that nature, where this format will be usable in lobbies of our rec centers. And so I think we have a vision of how we get there eventually and how we can help people kind of more in person through this application. That's the hope, but it's gonna take a while to get there.
What is the timeline on this? I mean, summer registrations are coming up soon. We're not thinking this would be in place for that, so is there a possibility as people are signing up for summer camps this year to just say, hey, if we had a mobile app, would you use it? If it was only in English, would you use it? Like, and just sort of get some sense on whether we think people would
Yeah,
actually use
It's a
them.
terrific idea.
The point of implementing a mobile solution isn't to save money for who people are already registering. It is another avenue to get more people to register, right? So you're not cannibalizing one population for another, you're actually augmenting potentially the potential people you want to now enter into your program, is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, giving another avenue.
I'm sorry.
No, that's a very good question. I have a follow-up.
Okay, and one thing I forgot to ask was, because you had said, what do we put on the front pages, are you using a data-driven solution to look at what has happened on your web pages to see what's been popular, to then use that data to suggest how you actually put what's on your mobile page?
So I know that there has been some on our city website, not necessarily for WebTrack in terms of what is popular. Those options have been there since before the user interface was updated. And I think just because, as I mentioned, the limitation with the coding on the back end, like it has to be something that we have in RecTrack that our activities are already coded to. We kind of have to go based off of that. So we can try adding like generic options, buttons, kind of like we have up on the top bar, this search option. But we kind of have to make sure that it's something that the system can do and that is already coded in RecTrack.
Do they offer the company BSI? Do they offer reporting for you to understand how people are using the web app, the mobile app?
They do.
Okay, because that is where you would want to pressure them for that data-driven solution, because that's where you're gonna find out where most of your traffic went, right?
So following up on that, kind of, you were talking about it being a new user group, not necessarily those that are registering in person, switching to mobile app, but other people. And I guess that to me is even more of a big question. How do we know that this is the tool that someone who doesn't register now for the programs will start registering because we have a mobile app?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I think that there are a lot of individuals, especially in the senior population, that are just completely unwilling to put their cards online, into a computer. My mom was one of them where I could put my card online, but she was not gonna put hers. So I think, this is an endeavor that we're trying to just educate the public about the options. And I know a lot of our programs are by word of mouth, and we're hoping that we can at least spread the word. And it's easier to show people on, I have this on my phone, let me show you the app and have you download it. But, we haven't figured it all out. We're just trying to really kind of start from scratch here with getting your feedback before we've gone too far down the road, really. That's why we're bringing it to you so soon in this endeavor. So it's really all good feedback for us to consider.
Yeah, and with that same thing, I'm just wondering if there's other cities around that have rolled out an app and if
There
it's
isn't
done these
any
things.
local cities. Like Tracy mentioned, there are a lot of organizations that are using RecTrack that are kind of in the beta testing portion. I know there's gonna be some applications that are released in the next month for organizations, but it's nationwide. It's not just within the Bay Area.
Question? Following up on points Commissioner Trapp, about getting more input. Something that can be very effective to do is a mock-up, quick and dirty demo. Have you considered some way of mocking up this app or quick and dirty usable demo app that some groups could try out and see, if does this work? What do I like about it? What do I not? It's commonly used in product development.
And to add to that, also there's A/B testing of products. So there's one of your design, you put two designs out there in same or different groups and see which one adapts it more. So you may want to consider your A/B testing. It's called A/B testing on that too. But to me, everything you should be thinking about is data driven. So back to that point and to your point, if you can look at who is the first time registration and have never registered before, that's your adoption rate for your app, right? How many people who were there before have now registered through the app? Okay, well now they're adopting through mobile, not sequential. So all of that, that's why you should press BSI about reporting, because that's going to show you your ROI and how valuable this has been to you. Any questions?
Okay, we'll open it up to public comment. As a reminder, if you're on Zoom, please raise, do we have anyone on Zoom right now?
We have one person.
Okay, if you're on Zoom, please use the raise your hand button to be called on. Please unmute yourself when called upon. 3 minutes for public comment if anyone raises their hands.
We have no raised hands at this time.
Okay, I will close public comment and bring it back for comments. We'll go the same direction this time. So go ahead, Commissioner Witcher.
I am fresh out of comments.
You made them all, sorry.
Now, were you asking us about some of your design options you had?
Yeah, absolutely.
You had 4, I think, that you put up there. And just as you made that comment earlier, the eye, when looking at design, needs white space. So you need more white space than those first 2 designs. The eye is more pleasing when you have a little bit for your eyes to rest.
Okay.
So you don't want a lot of content on there. And to Commissioner Witcher's point, to me, your very first button should be search. I mean, just right at the top. Let's just let people search for what they want to, because they're gonna get frustrated with too many things below. You don't wanna have a lot of scrolling initially, because that too annoys people after a while, right? Although we're used to it, is very annoying to us after a while. So again, data driven, if you're gonna keep it to 5 or 6 buttons there, make that data driven. Go look at your back end and see what has people clicked. Is it adult activity? Is it child activity? Put those at the top, right? Because you don't want people scrolling down if they're not gonna, if that's not what people are gonna register for, right? Any call to action that you can put at the very top, you're gonna want that. You want someone to immediately go to what they wanna find. You don't want them scrolling around looking for anything, because you're gonna lose them. We have a 30-second attention span, and we're gonna move on to something else when someone texts us or a phone call comes in, right? So other than that, I think on one of your screens, you were talking about having to have a notice about another thing for children to register. That was why I was asking, can you put tags, can you put like a banner on things, because you should immediately alert people that they're gonna need further permissions or further whatever, and having that little banner there or that little icon there, they immediately know, okay, I'm gonna have to do something more here. Then I'm maybe not be able to complete this transaction now because I need to do something more, right? So all of those things allow people to quickly go through and not get frustrated with what he's put in front of them.
Thank you.
Shirley?
So I think referring back to the comments made earlier, we should really try to keep it like as simple as possible. And you mentioned earlier about like going back, being able to go back. I think it's important to like be able to backtrack, but if it takes a lot of time to like backtrack to where the beginning point is, I think we'll lose like a lot of users that way. So that's like the comments I would give for those points. And then I have some additional feedback for the development. One thing I think would increase the sort of engagement with this app would be after making an account, we can ask them like, what are you interested in? Like have several categories and like have them pick which ones they're interested in. And then I guess in the future, we can maybe on the homepage, there's a section where we can connect the user to events that sort of match the interests that they picked in the very beginning. So that is one point. And then for all the events, I think by having this app and having it on your phone, it's important that we take full advantage of like the functions. Like for example, for event, we could have like a sort of link or button that you can click on and then go to go to Google Maps so that users are able to know like the exact location, and I think that will help with accessibility. And then third option, I guess, is also sort of a question, which is I think it's important that for every program, if there's like limited seats, that the user is able to be able to identify if there's like how many seats are left for that specific program.
There is, just to hop in really quickly, there's one thing that we weren't able to show, but there is gonna be a message center within the app. And that's where folks can sign up for push notifications based on different interests. So we can have push notifications for events, for registration days, for aquatics, for any of those kind of topics that are most popular. And they'll be able to select on their own whether they want to receive those push notifications or not, or whether they just want it to be on their message center, so.
I will second, I think I did not see an available filter on our search on the website. I think that's really important for people if, especially summer camps, like you wanna know, you don't wanna be scrolling through the entire thing. You wanna know, okay, which weeks are available still, so I can sign up for that, or what's available that week. I agree with the white space. I think it's also an accessibility issue for being able to visually see it. I also, this is maybe more a website thing, but when you're like reserving picnic areas and jumpers permits for parties, like I would love to be able to search by jumper permit and it tell me immediately that there's a picnic rental that goes with it or have it automatically. And you're laughing because I'm sure everybody asked for this because that is the most annoying thing ever on our website. So I'm throwing that out there. I guess I'm probably not the demographic for this mobile app, but I'm not 100% convinced it's really gonna add a lot of value to what we already offer. I'm hard pressed to think of someone who isn't already signing up for programs that would suddenly do it through a mobile app. So that I would like us to probe on that a little bit more to see if that is a group we're bringing into the fold. Or maybe trying to make our website more mobile friendly might be the other alternative.
Can I,
Yes, please.
so I think with the apps, it's more, I think a lot of the users we may bring would be like because I think just having something on your phone, usually we don't really like to go like bring out our laptop and like go on there to like find something, and just having it on your phone really readily available is something really convenient. But I think one thing is with the design, probably it's really simple right now. I think just having maybe some working with some design will help kind of increase that sort of popularity, or just like how people usually like to look at apps and like that sort of design.
Okay. Can I want to ask a question of you. I mean, how often would you register yourself for an activity or book a picnic table? Like, I'm just,
Yes, so I would find this app helpful if like on the weekends I don't know what to do. So maybe if I like go on the app and I see, oh, there's like a pottery class or something, just like a quick like 1 hour session that's free, then I would like, sort of tell my friends about it and like say, hey, like we can hang out and we could do this activity. So that's how I would see myself using this app. So I think definitely in terms of promotion and just how the app looks in general, sort of observing how the popular apps right now, like Instagram, the sort of designs being sort of like incorporated maybe those designs and then increasing the engagement there.
okay.
Do you think that's an excellent point in the sense that if someone does opt into notifications and to point earlier about what's still left and what's available, having that push notification on Friday saying, hey, if you don't have any plans this weekend, pottery is still available. I think that's gonna increase your adoption. And I would think most people would want that coming through their mobile phone more so than computer or somewhere else. So I think this is only gonna increase your adoption, because the first thing I do is search that on my mobile phone for it, and then later I forget, and then I go back to my computer. But yes.
Yeah, that is a good point. Having like a push notification saying there's only 3 spots left for camp this week, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, okay, forgot to do that. So I could see that being useful too.
Yeah, and that is an option, and we got to see it in person at the symposium. The training was broken up into different days, and every day in the morning, we would get a notification that said, hey, this is what's available on the schedule today. Make sure you check in wherever your training is. For lunch, we got another one. Hey, this is what's available for lunch, And there is call to action buttons on those push notifications. So if you want to register for like aquatics or a camp, and we send you a push notification, you can click on it and it'll take you directly to the site.
Directly to the, one class or the one camp.
Exactly.
That, that we're trying to fill, or we added more spots, because, and I think also with, the push notifications is gonna be able to help with staff a lot, being able to get the word out quickly to our patrons. I think it'll increase the just communication between us and the very large city. So being able to get word out about a facility closure last minute, right, that we had to deal with last January, luckily, thankfully, not gonna live in any of these this year, but being able to just have that, people want their information and they want it yesterday, so being able to have another avenue to try and get as much information out as possible, I think is what we're really aiming for.
Yeah, like field closures.
Cancellations,
Field
yeah, exactly,
closures
yeah.
would be great to know.
Yeah,
For
class
rain,
cancellations.
When the water part feature turns on, because I'm sure you get a lot of calls about
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Alright, well, you're starting to convince me. Any other comments or questions?
I think I heard you say single sign-on, so will it be seamless between the web and mobile, so I don't have to read it? And then for me, I'm opposite, I'm lazy about my credit card, so will it be an option where it's just in there? It's just in there, and I'm like, I'm not putting this out there in the world, but I just leave it in there, so. is that on the roadmap for development to have?
We haven't asked about that. I know that BSI has been pretty steadfast about not having credit card information saved on the website. But it is something that we can look into, we can ask them. I know sometimes with phones, you know, once you're on a website, you kind of can save your credit card information on there. But it's not something currently offered through the system itself.
We keep asking though, and then if more people keep
Yeah.
asking, you know, more persistent.
Just get it on their backlog.
Yeah, like just add it to your list. I'm here.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Yeah,
for the
thank you.
lively Conversation about that. Right. We're now on item 3, proposed parks and recreation fee schedule for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. We've got Nicholas. What's your last name again? Chorvis, thank you.
I like the.
I would not have guessed from the spelling. Chorvis, thank you.
So, commissioners, good evening, and members of the public. My name is Nicholas, and once we start presenting, I will walk you through the fee schedule for the year ahead. And the way it works is that every year, we as a city, all the departments are asked to consider the fee schedule that we publish, and it includes all the fees that the city charges to the public. And we are given a consumer price index to apply, or a market adjustment. And that number this year is 2.8%. And the reason for this is so that we can make sure that our fees have kept up with the economy, and they are relevant and reflect the economy that we are in. Parks and Recreations sets fees for facility rentals, including recreation spaces, the Poplar Creek Golf Course for all the services that we offer there. For our Arbor department, things like the replacement tree planting costs, any service that might be, again, offered there. And what we don't have there is also the Parks Department, which offers things like replacement benches, for example, the community gardens. Anything that we offer has a fee, and it should be published. What isn't listed specifically are programmatic fees. And the reason being is that they are governed by a cost recovery philosophy that is outlined in the first 3 pages of the fee schedule. And the reason why that is because of the fact sometimes, especially when we use things like contractors that provide instruction, for instance, the ceramics that Serene mentioned earlier, we may not know what the cost for running that class is up until the point that the class is ready. So therefore, it's a little bit more difficult for us to predict what the price for that will be. As well as that, there are situations where we may have a new program that we are offering, and we may want to do like an introductory pricing. And sometimes we may find that our very own people that we hire may be offering a similar class literally across the road in the city that's on the other side of the 101. So if they're offering for a lower cost, then we want to have some flexibility there in order to do so. So that is one of the many reasons that programmatic fees are not listed specifically. I should also draw some attention to the cost recovery philosophy that we have. And what it speaks to is that because of the fact that we don't know exactly what the inputs are, we have ranges that speak to how much the pricing should be that guide it. And it could be in some cases something like direct overhead through to full overhead. So we're trying to show that, as long as we are somewhere between, point A and point B, where we are covering the bare minimum and maybe making some additional cost recovery for the facilities or for the other staff that may be involved indirectly, then we're kind of in the right price range. So again, these are some of the many reasons why the pricing isn't specifically called out for some of our programs. So having said that, this evening, Tracy and Jen Wilson will be joining, so we can just speak through to the main key points that we have that are impacted. And by that, what I'm specifically drawing your attention to is the fact that if the increase is within the 2.8%, then there's no explanation required because it's just simply keeping up with the pace of the economy. Should the increase be greater than 2.8%? Should the fee be a new fee that wasn't there last year? Or should the fee be changing? Then we should provide some explanation to yourselves. And as a matter of course, once you have been presented with this fee schedule, we then hand the fee schedule over to the finance department, who then present it to City Council with your comments, if any, or recommendations. So having said that, I will ask Jen over there, Jen Wilson, to speak to the picnic rentals and what the changes there have been. If you want to, you can come up.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. My name is Jen Wilson, the Community Services Supervisor of Athletics, Outdoor Facilities, and Picnic Rentals. So I just want to get you started on this. So one of the things that we're doing in here is we've organized the picnic rentals and rates by size and occupancy. So our small picnic areas now have an occupancy up to 30 people. Our medium picnic areas are anywhere between 31 to 60, and our large picnic areas are 61 plus people. With the exception of the shelter being set aside from, it is a large picnic area, but because it is the only shelter we have, it is set at a different price. Our food vendor fee has been added for a flat rate per use of $28 at eligible picnic sites. And our picnic cancellation rescheduling fees are set in place so that if you set a picnic and you want to cancel it, you can do so 10 days or more from your picnic date. For a $20 fee, less than 10 working days, there's no refund. And to reschedule your picnic fee, we are adding in a flat rate use of $20. I'm not entirely sure how this works. Do you just move through this presentation and we ask questions? Okay. Okay.
So what, if I can, Jen, so these, so the first part that Jen spoke to are the differences in the ways that the picnics are now classified and listed. And I should also note that these line up with what we have on the website. So if you go on our website and have a look, they are actually classified as small, medium, and large, and now it's kind of more aligned. So we felt that this was a better way of doing it. Food vendor fee wasn't there before, so we've added that. And then the picnic cancellation or rescheduling fees, again, this is a new fee, which is why we're calling it out for your attention.
All right, I'm back. Indoor reservations at our facilities. So basically, we're really just trying to kind of clean up the language and streamline it so that it's more understandable for the public. So as you can see, it has classifications B, C, and non-residents. Classification B is nonprofit and C is residents, and then non-residents. Classification A is any city-sponsored event. So those ones with no department obviously approval are of no cost. So really this was for the most part in there, but it's just getting it clear for all the different classifications. So bookings on weekends or during non-operating hours, they'll be charged $50 additional per hour, $23 per hour for the facility specialists, as well as $32 per hour for the custodial staff needed to set up and break down. As well, we are proposing some new fees is the $53 alcohol permit fee. We also have those on our picnic rentals, so trying to add those as well on our indoor facility rentals. And also a $250 refundable security deposit for any of those indoor rentals that have alcohol involved. And then we just have a few additions of some indoor rental spaces that we are adding on to kind of our inventory list. So the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the gym, as well as our Shoreview Center, assembly and social rooms, and the senior center game and library room. And then the Beresford Assembly was on there twice for some reason, so we just deleted one of them.
Okay, so our recreation for athletics, we have updated the tournament fee from a per use per field to a per hour per field. Particularly because of per use per field was very difficult to explain. So is it per use by per game that you're offering on the field? How do you calculate that? So using the per hour per field for a little clarification. We've added the camp and clinic fees as its own category within the fee schedule. So it was currently in as priority under priority 3.4, and we've moved that to add it to its own category within the fee schedule. San Mateo High School gym rental. We've clarified the facility specialist and custodial rates, kind of to mimic what Tracy was just saying in terms of trying to get some clarity around, not clarity, but some simplification, so it all matches and lines up together. So if you rent a facility at Beresford or at King, you'll see the same charges if you're doing renting the gym as an internal facility as well. So the facility specialist and custodial staff has been rate to coincide with that, along with our joint use agreement with the San Mateo Union High School District, which requires us when we have our hours in the gym, we have to provide our staff on site. We've also added a tournament deposit fee to coincide with our field. Tournament deposit fee, again, just trying to make those simplified and across the board to all of our tournament fees. And then we added a miscellaneous fee of a $30 rental fee for the bocce ball sets, should you want to rent them through the rec center. Or through athletics, I should say.
And now for the balance of the fee schedule that we have. Parks, all changes were made in line with CPI, so within 2.8%. For golf, all changes were made in line with CPI except for the senior 10 play card, which once CPI was included was $339.24, and we've rounded it up to in excess of CPI to $340. So a 76-cent increase there over the top. And the reason for that being is that if you were to review the fee schedule, you'll see that first of all, we like the prices to just generally be rounded up to full dollars. But as well as that, the way that the golf services manager has done his pricing, it's they align whether you're buying 10 units in one unit, and the one unit is at $34, so the 10 units should be $340. So that was the reason for that. And then for the Arbor department, when we sent out the fee schedule for your review, what we have tried to do is similar to the fact that we've tried to streamline and make our internal fees consistent with departments and our in different recreation centers. We've also tried to make our fees consistent with those that the other city departments charge. And what we have is that the appeal charges are set at $550 with other departments. And at the time, we weren't sure what the other departments, whether they would have moved forward or whether they would have stayed at $550. I believe we're the first kind of department to present a fee schedule. So we found out yesterday that $565 is the new number. So we're just updating you that that'll be the number that we're going forward with. It used to be $550 before, and that's within, again, the 2.8% increase. So that's consistent with other departments and with the CPI. Next page. Now, last but not least, the impact fees. So there's a definition there of what the impact fees are, but what it is I think in layman's terms, and I hope I can explain this in such a way, is that when you bring a new family or a new household to San Mateo via whether you do a subdivision of a parcel or whether you you build multi-unit housing on one block of land, then you have to, the Quimby Act, which was passed in 1975, enables us to charge money or require land dedications in order to have more lands available or rehabilitate parklands or rehabilitate existing park sites in order for those additional families to make use of it. So we have two fees. There's the park in lieu fee and the impact fee, and they're both the same. The reason why there's two of them, and you might say, well, why they're the same, was because one is the Quimby Act was focused on creating additional parcels, which is done through subdivisions, but that created a loophole for multi-family housing on one block of land when no subdivision was taking place. That makes sense. It doesn't. So what it is if you have a very large block of land and you build 50 units, you're not doing any subdivisions. So therefore you're not creating any parcels, and therefore you weren't required to contribute. So having said that, so they are the same thing, they're just for different cases. And the way that this is derived is that the fees are based on the cost of land in San Mateo. And the way that is done is that we use websites such as Trulia and Zillow in order to track the cost of housing. And based on that, we then have these three data points. There's the cost of housing in San Mateo, because that gives us the price of land. And then we use two different data points from the American Community Survey, or the census. And what that speaks to is the number of houses that we build and the typical household structure that resides in those houses. So whether a single family home is made up of 2.7 or 2.5 people. So last but not least, the municipal code requires that we aim for 2 acres per 1,000 people. So once you put it all together and you divide the cost of land per acre by down to 0.02% in order to get 2 acres per 1,000 people, you multiply that by the number of people per household, and you come up with a number which is $25,000 this year, and last year was 29 for a single family home. So they're very large numbers compared to the rest of our fees. However, like I said, they are governed totally by the cost of the housing market in the city. And as such, it's not something that we have any power over as a department. That's until such time as the municipal code changes. So there you go.
There were a couple of things left on that slide, just to go over the.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
my apologies. So two things that additional, mobile home fees have been removed. The reason being is that in order to calculate the prices for those, we need to know the number of those that have been built. It's a data point. And because mobile homes have not been built in the city of San Mateo for the past couple of years, and the numbers that the American Communities Survey was coming up with had this year they had no number listed, so we couldn't actually call out the calculation. And just as a sanity check, we also followed up with the community development department, and they said that it's right, there hasn't been any of those built in San Mateo for quite a while, and it doesn't appear that there's any applications on the horizon. And then further, there's a residential building permit fee tax, which is also listed in the Community Development Department fee schedule. And we removed it because of the fact that it was duplicitous, and we were worried that at some point somebody might change. We don't actually, we're not the ones that come up with that fee, they are. And we were just worried that they may change it and we may not, and then it might create a discrepancy. So again, we solicited their opinion, and they agreed that it should only be listed in one place.
I was gonna go the other direction. You wanna ask questions first? Or do you wanna- Go ahead. Okay, great.
So how are these new fees?
There is a presentation to City Council that is scheduled for April 15th. And they will be, the whole fee schedule with not just ours, all the city fees will be published at that, presented at that point. And like any other city council meeting, the public will be notified, and then people can come and ask questions or present opinions at that meeting. And then based on the outcome of that meeting, they will be enacted, they will be
There's also,
published. and so-
there's also the 90-day notification that goes out, if you want to speak to that. The
Yeah, so obviously the city council meetings are always made known to they're on our website in terms of announcement, but as well as that, special stakeholder groups. So for example, the impact fees that I was speaking to, for example, they will impact developers that build homes for as part of their trade. So they need to know that and be able to come back and present an opinion as to, whether they agree or disagree with, the number that we're presenting. And that requires, so trade groups, as they are called, and associations need to be noticed for, a much larger period in order to prepare and come and present their comments. So there's a special noticing requirement, not just for the public, but for those different trade groups that may be, or associations that may be interested, special interest groups that may want to come and ask questions on that evening.
The other thing that I'll just speak to is some of these fees are enacted in July of this year and some are January of next year. So we have a lot of time to do outreach, like we put together information at the golf course to let people know that pricing is changing, so in the picnic sites, we'll be advertising it and alerting user groups of the specific changes in advance.
Thank you.
I think you may have said this and I may have just missed it. So how do you decide on the fees? How do you compare them to other cities our size or similar? Like how do you, outside of the CPI and just doing the math? Let's say it was a new fee, I think had a
Sure.
couple of new fees.
Generally, we do, it's one of the questions that Joanne always asks, like, what are other cities doing? So we do always check in to see whether other cities are doing things differently to us, how they set their fees. And as well as that, what the policy is as well. Like we just look at the whole picture because, we're not perfect and it's a good way of just seeing what other people are doing. So that's how we go about it. And as well as that, we also consider our own internal costs because sometimes, our internal cost to provide a service may be very different to what other cities are charging. So it's kind of like a twofold thing that, we look at them to see, how they do it, but then also we consider our own, where we are in the pricing equation, the cost to actually provide the service. And then, there's a robust discussion usually that takes place, and then we come up with a number.
And using the CPI, is there a range as to how you throttle up or throttle down something, or how do you go about that type of?
So quite honestly, what you'll see is that if say a price is $100 and then it's next year 2.8, it would jump to $102.80. We will usually just round down. We very rarely round up. There was some, like I said, if the only one that I could see this evening was the one from the golf course where it was just for completeness and to make it consistent with the senior single play game. That was $34, so 10 games, $340. But unless there's, there's a very express need to do so, and that need might be the fact that if you keep rounding down after a number of years, you might find that now you've only been applying 1.5 as opposed to 2.2. So at that point, again, through that combination of considering what others are charging in the, in the neighboring cities, we may then choose to jump up because of the fact that we feel that we are behind the market.
The packet that we have, there's a lot of red and green. And
Yes.
Is that what goes out to the public and they see the?
No, that is by design from the finance department because it's actually a legend to show that if it's green, it means that we've touched it. So they want all the cells that we've touched to be green, so they know that something's happened there. If it's red, it means we've exceeded we've made a change. If it's black, if the font is black, then what it means is that we've accepted that the price won't be changing this year. Yeah, I'm really sorry. It's always a challenge as to how to get this. very data, this so many listings to you in a way that is, easy to see and read.
And my last question, you said no mobile homes have been built in San Mateo, so is that because we don't allocate space for mobile homes anymore, or?
No, it's just that we don't have, so anecdotally, I think that it is, San Mateo is an expensive city, and therefore it's not a, I don't think, well, for whatever reason, we just haven't been approached for mobile home parks to be created within the city.
But not the county, because I can think of
Yeah,
some places
yeah.
where,
That was my comment exactly. I'm aware of the one in Colma, for example, next to Costco there.
there's one on the way to Facebook too, there's a very large mobile home
Right.
back there.
I'm not familiar with that one, but yeah, we don't, and hence why I went and checked with the CDD, with the Community Development Department. The fact that the census said that I believe this year they had none, and then last year they had 38 with a margin of error of 56. So at that point, so I said, hey, it looks like there's none, and and they said to me, yeah, we haven't had an application for a number of years. And as well as that, there are no applications pending either.
That's all.
Thank you for very detailed presentations. I imagine a lot of effort went into those. First question, determining parcel value and home value, that has a lot of ramifications. Is using Trulia and Zillow, how did that come to be an official process?
The process, so first and foremost, we've got like I said, the municipal code speaks to 1,000 acres per 2 people. So at the moment, we
2
have-
acres per 1,000
Sorry,
people.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. I was just thinking about the
Yep,
numbers in the
yeah, just
division, yeah.
reversed them, yeah.
So at the moment, we have 105,000 residents, and I believe we have something like 216 acres available as parkland, right? So that's just where we're at as a city. So the thing is that in order to come up with this fee, you need to have a number, and then you have to escalate it change it every year based on the value of land. So when a number of years ago, when this calculation was in the ordinance was passed, what they came up with was that, and there was a consultant involved, which I don't recall the name, but what they came up with a base value of an acre of land in San Mateo, and then the calculation that was adopted that we use, like I said, Trulia or Zillow in order to track the cost of housing in San Mateo, and then use that as the escalating or de-escalating factor to the value of that 1 acre of land. So that's how it was adopted. And it probably would have come to the commission, like just this evening, many
Sure.
years ago. Yep.
No, that was a very thorough explanation. Thank you. I assume that there's a revenue target annually. What was the revenue target for 2023? What's the projected revenue target for 2024? And how did these changes bring us to the target for 24? So first, what was our target for 2023 and how did we come in?
So the revenue targets, there isn't a revenue target specifically for impact fees.
Oh, I'm sorry, for programs overall.
Yeah, sure. So
Sorry, I
last,
didn't make that clear.
that's okay, yeah.
Switching over to the main topic. of
Sure.
programs.
So the revenue target for specifically for recreation last year was $3.571 million, I believe. And the way we come up with that is that we consider the trends in terms of how many participants we have in our different programs, and then knowing the prices for our programs, then we can kind of like do a calculation and come up with a number. So so last year, with some of the grants that we received and the very strong summer that we've had, because of the fact that obviously the pandemic put a huge dent in the participation of our programming. I think the total was about $3.9 million, which is almost at pre-pandemic levels. This year, I believe we're at approximately $3.6 million in terms of a target. We're always a little bit conservative because you just don't know what's going to happen the following year. But we always hope to, at least meet what we did the previous year and exceed it.
Great, so there was a $400,000 surplus.
Last year, yeah, surplus is probably not the right word
Yeah,
for it.
please help me with the right term.
Yeah.
You're talking to a business guy.
Sure. And the reason being is that overall our the cost to operate the recreation division, and that's just straight out in terms of what salaries and what have you, is approximately $9 million. So therefore it's not like, we didn't bring back 9.4, we brought it 3.9. So therefore there wasn't a surplus. But then secondly, the other thing is that for many of our programs, in actual fact, what happens is that we hire contractors, for example, in order to provide programming. So therefore even though we brought in more money, we actually spend more money so we spend money to make money. And for contractors in particular, for contract instructors in particular, the way that we do it is that we have a split, profit, so you spend, you might charge a patron $100, but that only means, yeah.
Perfect. And another really great explanation. Food vendors. Why are we instituting a food vendor fee? Is there an additional cost that's associated with food vendors? Clarifying food vendor, that doesn't mean someone who's catering. Does it? It means someone who's selling food.
It's both. So it's if you're bringing in a caterer, if you're bringing in a food truck, if you're bringing in a food vendor on site, because there are certain parks in our park system where you cannot have a barbecue. So for example, take Sugarloaf, since we're on that one with Laurelwood. It is prohibitive to have any kind of open flame at Laurelwood currently. So you'll find no barbecue pits around any of the picnic areas that we have structured there. The food vendor fee, like the jumper fee, was enacted a while back to allow for one jumper in one designated space to provide, like, the park not full of like 5 million jumpers. There's one space, there's one way to get a permit, and then we can notify the park rangers to let them know, like, hey, we're going to be having a jumper permit out there. So when you do your passing checks, that's out there. Right now, if you have a food vendor, we don't have a way to track that system. We don't have a way to speak with customers. It is noted that if you want a food vendor currently, you can call and let us know, like, hey, I'm having a picnic on July 4th and I'd like to have a food vendor. That's what the website requires you to do, is to contact us, but that doesn't always happen. And so there's no way for us to communicate currently and efficiently to the park rangers who go out to make sure that the people who have food vendors out there actually are abiding by the rules. So like if someone has a picnic at Laurel Park and they bring in a food vendor who has a flat top grill, and we have no way of knowing that because they didn't contact us, and there's no button that you have to push that enables us to let the rangers know in our weekly reports, like, hey, this spot's gonna have a food vendor and here's what you're looking for, so that that's a way for us to track it and communicate it and make sure that we're following our city ordinances as to where we can have open barbecues or not, or where we can have food trucks or not, or like caterers that come in, they can't bring in their own large scale barbecue and start grilling rotisserie chickens in the hundreds, right? Like that has happened. And so we are now able to track some of that and better communicate to our patrons. The worst is when we have to go out and make contact the day of their picnic to let them know, I'm sorry, you have to stop cooking your 100 chickens right now because this contraption is illegal in our parks. So I don't know if that answers it, but that's one of the reasons why the fee is being enacted, so that we can better control and have data and also communicate out to our rangers what we're doing and to the public in terms of where they can and cannot have certain vendors.
Sure. Do we need a fee to do that?
I mean, that's a good question. I was, in all fairness, following suit with what we do with the permits for jumpers. I don't know that if the same question could be
I see.
asked is, do you need a fee for a permit for a jumper? Or just, can you just click a box and rent it and be done? I'm not sure, but I can.
I'll try and answer that. There's more administrative duties associated with tracking that and facilitating those payments. So that's why there's a fee associated.
Sure, so is this then really what is what is new, that people have to register that they are bringing a food vendor and they have not had to do that previously?
Correct. It was never part of the conversation.
And catering, so a quick comment, I think it's gonna be very difficult to differentiate between catering and food vendors. So there will be some misogyny with that, but thank you. Same question with an alcohol fee. Have we not had alcohol fees in the past? And I don't know because I haven't arranged an event in the city with alcohol.
So again, listen, this fee schedule is by far not perfect, but what we are trying to do each time we update it is trying to align better with what we do in one area and another. So we do have an alcohol permit fee for picnics. We do not have an alcohol permit fee for indoor rentals. So we're trying to streamline and make sure that everything is being handled in a similar fashion. And what our hope is that at some point, we won't have 13 pages of fee schedule for you to read through, and we can have more standardized language. So we're kind of chipping away at it right now, but there is a fee for picnics and there wasn't a fee for the indoor rentals. So that's the streamlining that we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I don't have an objection to that. I'm trying to understand the rationale behind it, and I think that I won't move into comments out of the comment period. Those are the questions that I have for now. Thank you.
I'm not sure I remember what it's called. I think it was in line with the cost recovery model, but we had actually been, right when you came on board, we were gonna go through a strategic plan on what we're trying to recover fully for, what we're trying to provide as a service. Is that still in the works?
Yes. Slow going, but yes. So that's partially why we didn't touch the first few pages of the document, is because we're working on that behind the scenes. And I think that within the next year or so, you will see us come back to you and try and reformat that portion of the fee schedule. So we just decided, there's some things that we don't charge for that are in there. And instead of just trying to hack away at it, we're just going to take it as its own item at some point when we are able to move forward on the whole cost recovery endeavor.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna swap over to comment, or no, we need to do public comment first. So do we have anyone still on Zoom? Okay, so we're gonna open for public comment. Reminder, if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand now to be called on, and then please unmute yourself only when called upon.
No raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and go back to comments, and I'll just keep talking. So, because I don't have many. I want to piggyback on the food vendor. I think that term is confusing.
Okay.
So, because I had the same question. I was like, what is that exactly? And then how do we make that in the system known that you have to do that? I think is something we should think about. And then just for the cost recovery for my fellow commissioners who haven't been here for that. So there's this process where we kind of, Parks and Rec is not really a for-profit area, right? It's providing a service, parks, open spaces and recreation. And so there's a kind of a scheme, correct me if I'm explaining this incorrectly. There are some things that we value so high that we would offer for free, right? We'll just take that cost on, it's free to the public, versus things that we want to recover those costs from. And so it's kind of figuring out what's what in in that model. So, okay, next, we're gonna move on, Commissioner Lee, comments.
From what I remember, the minimum fee for rescheduling, for picnic reservations for rescheduling and cancellation is $20. And I think there should still be a period of time where the cancellation fee or rescheduling fee is not charged. For example, I think for sudden weather changes, a fee should be charged for rescheduling due to those reasons.
So we currently do have, sorry, a rain out policy. So if your picnic rental is set to go for this Saturday and you keep your reservation and it rains, we will refund you your full amount, no penalty whatsoever. If you opt to, I'll just leave it there. If you opt to cancel for the prediction of rain, that falls under the cancellation policy. So if that, does that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Jeff. No comments, Commissioner Richard.
Just reiterate on the delta, the differentiation between a food vendor and a caterer, and you might have to get more fine grained, say if open fires, open flame is a really specific thing. So I think this last weekend, half of our family worked in the kitchen in the morning to essentially cater a baby shower. And if I were holding it in the park, I would say, no caterer, no food vendor. But I'll just stop there. I think I have humbly explained my point.
I wish that Lauren was here. She's my program assistant and she deals with picnics 90% of the time. But she had the day off, but I do think, I remember seeing somewhere in here, but it does say caterers and food vendors are not permitted unless previous permission has been granted on our website. So I agree. I've noted it twice with the star, like we probably do need to look at how we're calling that out and what that looks like. So thank you for the feedback.
Any additional comments? Thank you. See this back next year. All right, we'll move on. Oh, sorry, we do need to do a motion on this. So I'm going to ask for a motion to recommend the Parks and Rec fee schedule for the fiscal year 2024-2025. Don't think we need to note the food vendor.
We'll take that feedback.
Yeah, I don't think we need to revise anything there. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Okay, thank you. Please call the roll. The vote.
Commissioner Witcher,
Aye.
Commissioner Trapp.
Aye.
Vice Chair Warnick.
Aye.
Thank you, motion has passed.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to reports and announcements.
I just have two quick ones for tonight, and I wanted to start off by letting you all know that the city clerk's office held a contest to encourage young San Mateo residents to design an I voted sticker, and we are going to be using them at various locations for the upcoming primary election. We received a total of 20 submissions, and our youth activity council was they conducted a vote to decide the winners, and they were recognized at the city council meeting on February 5th. And so these are the stickers. I'm gonna pass around what the winners look like. It just was really a fun activity that we're gonna get to see in March. So that was great. The only other thing that I wanted to add is today's Tuesday, so today was registration for residents for our spring activities. baseball, volleyball, skateboarding, ceramics, cooking, all of that. Non-residents will register on Thursday, will be available to register on Thursday. And then our Building Blocks preschool program has also began accepting applications this week for next school year, 24-25. And our digital summer camp and aquatics activity guide goes live tomorrow online. So get a sneak peek of all of our upcoming offerings. So that's all I have to report today. Thank you.
Any announcements from commissioners? Okay. We'll adjourn the meeting then. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.